Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
James. People's poll day. Let's get straight into it. What were the runners, riders, who won, and what are we talking about today?
Close vote this week. There were 3 options for Twitter users if they could log in yesterday. It was about the only social network actually working, wasn't it?
Yeah, Twitter were quite funny. Did you see their tweet that they put out officially themselves?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Did you see the banter they was having with McDonald's?
No.
McDonald's responded to them and was like, how can we help you? And they were like, can we get 54.6 million nuggets for all of our users or something, or friends or something like that.
Bad.
Yeah, good banner. There were some reports going around like Facebook's done forever, isn't it? See all these people properly stressing out. Watford and the sacking of Cisco Munoz was one of the options. Claudio Ranieri, I think it's been confirmed, isn't it? Is the new Watford manager.
Yeah.
What do we give him? 3 months, 4 months?
Depends how good his tinkering is.
I mean, he's there for the paycheck, isn't he? The cynic in me wants to say, why? Like, if you need a quick buck, why would you not take over Watford? It's a surefire way to get money quick, isn't it? They're a bit of a mess. I think the overriding message on that actually is a lot of people on the outside are like, hang on, you're 7 points from 7 games, you're 15th in the league. What are you doing? But it seems like nearly every Watford opinion I've heard have been like, right decision, had to go. So
yep.
Perhaps we shouldn't be so critical of the way they behave with managers on this particular occasion. They didn't win the vote. Neither did, although that came very close, the idea of why does everyone hate the 12:30 p.m. kickoff? Although one person tweeted me and did say, I like it. I get more of my day afterwards, but that was the only opinion I had. I don't think players like it. Managers clearly don't like it. I don't think the majority of fans like it. I'm not even convinced that the TV companies even like it. And neither do FPL managers, because they believe there's an early kickoff curse. We'll find out when Mo Salah actually plays Watford, I guess, in game week 8. But the winner of the vote was Barcelona. And the aim of this podcast is to answer the very, very simple question. Have they hit rock bottom?
Have they hit rock bottom? So to give a bit of a summary on the backstory, because we did record a podcast in January about the impending doom that was on the way with Barcelona. So they obviously had a financial crisis and they owed hundreds of millions of euros that were due at the end of the season, June-ish, which was made up primarily of bank loans and also transfer fees. They'd basically been buying players like DFS Sofa on installments, and off you go. They had to pay back quite a bit of money at the end of the season, which some got extended through bank loans and they sorted out their finances. But in the midst of all of this, their former president, Bartholomew or whatever, was going to prison and being screwed over. And basically, let's be honest, he is the architect of so much of this shit. Laporte came back in. He's been trying to sort it out, arrange refinancing and get the club going. And in amongst that backdrop of financial crisis at the club, they were still buying or trying to buy and sign players. So we saw Depay coming in, we saw Aguero coming in, and so on and so on. But then the shock at the time in January, we didn't really know the Messi situation. Is he, isn't he? Is he, isn't he? Ended up leaving. They ended up getting no money for arguably the best player in the world. The La Liga is a very interesting model in terms of how they manage their financial fair play, because it's proactive, not reactive. In terms of you get a salary limit for the upcoming year, as opposed to, oh, you screwed up in the previous 3 years, we're now going to fine you. So it's much more restrictive in certain ways, and their salary cap dropped by 40% based on the incomings and earnings. And so suddenly you're saying, actually, you know what, you're not making enough money, so you can now only spend this much. It's very difficult to adjust your budgets to a salary cap that was 600 and something million and now is 300 and something million. Was it even less? I thought it was 360 at some point. They had to reduce it by 200 and something million, no?
So I think their salary that they were allowed per year, and it includes coaching staff that works, was, you're right, it was 600 and something
Used to
million. But the report, the reports before the announcement suggested that it was probably going to be cut to around about 160.
Yeah.
Many of the reports now, and I don't think they are public anywhere officially, but most of the reports now are suggesting it's about 95 million.
As low as that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'd heard that it was cut by 40%. So yeah, I mean, basically, to make that kind of adjustment in such a short period of time is difficult for any club. Yeah, very difficult. So they're obviously screwed. I mean, they got rid of Messi, so that's a big chunk of wage bill off straight away. Yeah, it's still very, very difficult. Now, yeah, Barca had all of these issues. In amongst that, you can say that their transfer dealings have been bizarre, and they're losing games now, mate. I say they're losing games. They've only lost one league game, but they have drawn 3, and they've lost both their Champions League games as well to clubs that, well, Benfica. They would beat Benfica under normal circumstances, wouldn't they?
Well, they haven't lost to Benfica in 60 years, and it was the first time they'd lost to a Portuguese opponent since a UEFA Cup first round match in like 1977 or something. So yeah, they'd normally beat Benfica.
Bayern would beat everyone. So I'm not. But 3-0 at home to Bayern is not acceptable for a club of Barcelona standards.
No, listen, of course it's not. So Barcelona are currently 9th, and look, they're 5 points off top, and it's worth saying they have a game in hand. Although that game in hand, it's worth saying, is away to Sevilla, who could go joint top, actually, if Sevilla win that game. The results so far, it's not the fact that they've only lost one game in 7. It's the results themselves are quite alarming, particularly when I tell you in the first game of the season, they beat Real Sociedad 4-2. They've drawn 1-1 with Bilbao. They've beat Getafe 2-1. Since then, they obviously had the game with Seville postponed. They've drawn 1-1 at home to Granada, 0-0 away to Cadiz, where they basically held on at the end with 10 men. They beat Levante 3-0 at home last weekend. The Champions League results are particularly scary. So, and there's a number of reasons why they're scary. Obviously, look, they've lost 3-0 twice. Lost 3-0 at home to Bayern Munich, lost 3-0 at Benfica. And of course, unlike some of them La Liga results, that's getting shown globally around the world, particularly like the Bayern Munich game, right? That was probably the highlight of the fixtures in the first round of matches from a prestige perspective. It's the sort of tie that's normally worthy of being a Champions League final, right? How many shots on target Barcelona had in the 2 Champions League games with Munich and Benfica?
2.
3,
I don't know.
Try 0.
They haven't had a shot on target yet. In
both games.
That's mad.
So, obviously, Barcelona, the other problem they've got is there's a lot of prestige in terms of the way Barcelona play, the 4-3-3, the tiki-taka, etc., etc. We've seen in some of the La Liga games, particularly I think the 1-1 draw with Granada, they ended up having nearly 60 crosses in the match, playing Gerard Piqué as an emergency striker for the last 15 minutes and going direct. Like, it's quite sad. Against Bayern Munich, they played a back 5, didn't work. Against Atletico Madrid, who they lost to 2-0 at the weekend in the Liga, they changed to a 4-2-3-1. That didn't work. And he had old players haunting them. Griezmann, who's technically is Barcelona's player, but on loan at Atletico. What did they buy him for? 120 million or something?
Too much.
Well, Atletico have paid £8 million to have him for the season. With a potential activation to buy for around about 30 million. They're probably euros, these figures, actually, to confirm that sign at the end. Suarez scored, didn't he? After Koeman had booted him out, supposedly by phone call. And Suarez made a gesture to say that he was on his phone afterwards. Although apparently the two aren't connected, but I suspect that they probably were.
Yeah, as much as Andros Townsend's paying respect to the greatest ever player. Yeah, right. Not connected, my foot.
There was a press conference on Friday.
So
the Benfica defeat was last week. It was a press conference on Friday where Koeman's attitude was extremely depleted. He looked like a man who knew the axe was coming.
On the wall.
Exactly. And all the Spanish journalists afterwards were reporting like he's gone after the weekend. And basically, unless he goes there and wins convincingly, which it doesn't look like this Barcelona team are capable of doing. He's gone. But before the game even happened on Saturday, the mood seemed to change, where Juan Porta had come out and said, look, no, he's staying. We're going to back the manager. We understand the circumstance, yada, yada, yada. The majority of Barca fans think Koeman is so tactically out of his realms here that he's got to go. But there is some reports suggesting that they can't sack him.
Because they can't afford to sack him.
He's part of the rumour. But it's not just obviously it's the sacking. They've got to appoint someone else. And if they're being restricted on wages, let's say they've hit the kind of the maximum of the La Liga for the year. Obviously, whoever they get in, they can't pay more than they were paying Koeman, I would guess. Plus, they've got to give Koeman some compensation. Does the compensation have to come out the salary cap? I don't know.
More than likely.
So there is some suggestion that they might just have to sit on their hands.
Yep.
And do nothing. And I mean, the team is so stale. I've been saying to a lot of people, certainly prior to the Benfica game, look, there's every chance they'll get turned over. We did on a Champions League fantasy podcast prior to game week 1 saying, look, they ain't going to get nothing against Bayern Munich. Didn't particularly expect Bayern to go there with 3-0. They could have won by more, by the way. But yeah, this is just not Barcelona stuff, is it? Getting beat 3-0 by anyone. Never mind 2 games in a row and not have a shot on target. It's not just like that they've been counter-attacked. Bayern Munich have completely dominated them. Benfica could have got more than 3 as well. They've been battered.
Yeah. Looks bad even in terms of statistics. To lose, I mean, I don't really know Atletico Madrid's style of play, but they only had 29% possession. So Barca are still
that's Atletico around. That's Simeone all over, mate. You know.
But then they've just got beaten 2-0. So it's difficult for them. And the thing is with Barcelona as well, there's been some really questionable decision making around acquisition as well. The one that I'm really confused by is Sergio Aguero. He is injured right now. They say 7 or 8 weeks. That's a couple of months, right? That's a big chunk of the season that he's going to be out. I heard his salary was going to be around about 200,000 euros a week. Whatever it was big. But why would you make the decision to pay Aguero that much money when his past couple of years at City have been injury riddled? He's only getting older.
So
you need it. Like what? Why are you paying so much money for your striker? That's your second striker now, because Depay clearly will probably come in and play ahead of him. It's a stupid decision, and I'm sure there was a certain part of Aguero that thought he was going to play with his mate, right, Messi, and what have you, and that didn't work out in the end.
I think, in fairness, Messi thought he was going to play with Aguero as well.
Yeah, sure.
I think it was a signing to help appease Messi. We've kind of known for a long time. I mean, Lionel Messi's half been running that club. It was obviously not been running it well off the pitch. But in terms of what happens in terms of the actual on-pitch operations, I mean, he's kind of been running the gig for a few years now. So if he wanted Aguero, Barcelona had to go and get Aguero. Simple as that. Obviously now they're not even going to play together. I mean, Lionel Messi last year wanted to leave Barcelona. He's admitted it himself. He said it again.
He said on pitch.
He said it. What's that?
On the pitch. He came out and was when he came out and did that speech on the pitch. Wasn't he talking about?
Did he do it on the pitch?
I'm sure he did that speech on the pitch where he was talking about it.
I mean, he definitely wanted to leave, even according to his own words, in 2020. But Lionel Messi genuinely did not want to leave this summer, which actually, when you see the mess it's been left with, it's kind of shocking. But you understand the affinity he obviously had with the club, plus what was happening with Bartomeu, who was there before. He's like, I've got to get out of here. When Laporta came in, he obviously knew him before. Laporta was the president through the Guardiola years and stuff like that. It's like, fine, I'll stay. But even the new guys who come in kept lying to Messi, saying, oh, look, we can make this work. The Athletic did a report in early July, I think about July the 7th, they posted an article, which had I read at the time, I would have been certain that Messi was going to leave. I mean, they've pretty much said that in the article, was like, stop the delusions. Barcelona can't afford him. They cannot afford to re-sign Lionel Messi because he went out of contract on June the 30th. And a week later, they posted this article. It was like, unless they make unbelievable cuts, there is no way that they can re-sign him. And he's basically being lied to because it's not going to happen. La Liga are going to block it and stuff. And so they tried several ways around. Barcelona kept pushing to see if they would get some leniency from La Liga because it's Lionel Messi. But then you would have just had Madrid going, well, what about Mbappe or Sergio Ramos has obviously gone or something else, right? And it's worth saying, I mean, Barcelona's salary cap, to kind of give you a size of the task for Barcelona, has been cut to, I believe it's around about 95 million per season. Real Madrid is still 750. And they're not financially flush at the moment either. But they've not been going out and spending. We know they bid a hell of a lot for Mbappe, which I don't understand. That's a side note. But they can still sign the players. I mean, that salary cap, Barcelona, that drops them down to 7th in La Liga. Like, it's half of what Seville can afford to pay on salaries. You've even got clubs like Villarreal are being allowed to spend more on salaries than Barcelona. So they obviously couldn't get enough players out the door. In reference to Aguero, the reported salary that I've read is £230,000 per week.
Yep.
Correct. We've got Frankie de Jong on 350 grand a week. Sergio Busquets, who, as we saw for Spain in the summer, is still a good footballer, but getting exposed around kids, not looking quite so great. He's on nearly 260 grand a week. Depay's coming on 230 grand a week. PK's on over 200 grand a week. Dembele, Pjanic, who's now gone, Titi, who's still there, all over 200 grand a week. Jordi Alba and Philip Coutinho about 150 grand a week. Even looking down, like Martin Braithwaite's on 85 grand a week, which actually a club like Barcelona's, I guess it's not a lot of money. But why would they buy these players in the first place?
It's all back down to this Bartolomew's issues with the aggressive acquisition. I mean, they made over 200 million from Neymar and spent it straight away. There doesn't seem to be a lot of forward planning, and obviously they didn't foresee the drop in revenues from COVID and whatever. But I think this is regardless of COVID, they would have been in that situation. They're raking in over $1 billion in revenue and still not being able to turn a profit.
But are they going to rake that all in now that the main man's gone? Because one of the things
clearly not.
We've looked at this obviously with Messi and we've looked at it with Ronaldo. I mean, Ronaldo's already paid back the money that Manchester United bought him on shirt sales alone. Done. He's paid it back. Obviously, Messi was making Barcelona more money than what they were paying him. That's why what he was getting paid was extortionate. His reported salary at Barcelona was in terms, I think all the salary he was getting all in was coming towards like £1.5 million a week. Not all of that from Barcelona, admittedly, but it was absurd amounts of money, right? But Barcelona were making more than that. You just said like $1 billion a year, right? Is what they were making. And much of that because of Messi. Obviously, Messi has helped grow the Barcelona brand, as did obviously the Guardiola team and stuff now. But who's buying a Barcelona shirt now?
No.
When I mean, they don't look to me like a team that will qualify for next season's Champions League. So then pull that rug out from them in terms of the amount of money they would expect to make. This is beginning to feel like Leeds. They generally is beginning to feel, and I'm not saying that means Barcelona will go and get relegated from La Liga and stuff. This shouldn't do, right? Because obviously with La Masia and stuff there, they've already got kids they're integrating into the first team who are like 17, 18, and that's what needs to happen. But in terms of the kind of financial bomb, yeah. Someone needs to wake up and smell what's going on there. The Aguero signing is lovely and stuff, but you had to turn around to Messi and say, no, Aguero's now there, probably doesn't want to be there. He's like, oh, what the fuck have I joined this for? It's just a mess. Who signed that off to give Aguero over 200 grand a week?
No, exactly that.
And to be honest, even just, he's been a brilliant player, right? It's not a particular dig out of Sergio Aguero, but a player who's barely played a minute of football for like a year, right?
Yeah,
barely played for Man City last season.
Yeah,
he's clearly not the same player that he was.
No, and he's out injured, and you're like, well,
you know, Aguero's going to get injured.
What do you expect? I'm not. There's not a drop of me that's surprised that Aguero's not playing.
Even in his peak, you knew Aguero was going to get injuries. He's obviously going to go and get injuries now as well. But they had to. You could look at it and you could say, oh, well, if they hadn't got Depay, they'd be in a worse position now, like and stuff. Obviously gone and got like Luke de Jong in from Seville on loan, who was a complete flop at Newcastle and doesn't fit the characteristics of their style of play at all. It's just a mess, Suj.
Yeah, there's one say that, okay, I get it. Everything what you're saying about that they could be a Leeds. There's one saving grace for them, And I hope we don't disrespect all of our Spanish listeners, but La Liga generally is the quality of La Liga is so poor that they won't get relegated. They'll survive.
Deletes podcast.
No, I mean, I just don't. I can see them. Okay, they might hover around 7th, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th for a little while whilst they rebuild, but there's no risk of them getting relegated and dropping into the relegation zone. So if it's a case of okay, it's going to take 4 or 5 seasons or 3 or 4 seasons to restabilize, get rid of more crap, integrate more youth, and then build their way back up, then that's what it's going to take. Are they at rock bottom? Probably not, but I don't think they're massively far off. So they're in the Champions League now. So a season without the Champions League and finishing 7th or 6th or 7th in La Liga is where rock bottom for them is going to be.
But this is the point, right? This is where it's key, because it's not just the Champions League money. It's all the outside stuff that comes with it, the sponsorship, the endorsements, what you can do in terms of actually paying your players. You can bet your life that the majority of Barcelona's squad don't have wage deferrals for failing to qualify for the Champions League. It's worth saying there are a number of key players at Barcelona who have reduced their wages, like Piqué, Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets. I think City is refused. Pjanic, who's now gone out on loan somewhere, he refused to defer wages. But a few of the players have done that. And obviously, part of the reason they did that was to help keep Messi. But there was no way it was going to happen. It just wasn't financially viable. And the thing that I don't understand is, if they hadn't signed Depay and hadn't signed Aguero, I think there's a chance they could have squeezed it. But of course, they couldn't sell the players that they wanted to sell this year, like Dembele's and Coutinho's. People didn't have no interest. These guys were on extortionate salaries, nowhere near worth the money that what Barcelona paid for them. I mean, in form. I would have thought that a Premier League club might have taken a good chance on Coutinho because he was so outstanding for Liverpool. But no, apparently not. I think a lot of clubs left their business with Barcelona till the very last minute because you knew they were desperate.
Bargain shopping. Yeah, exactly that.
Absolutely knew they were desperate. But in terms of to the reference to Leeds, that's when it fucked up for Leeds, was the not qualifying for the Champions League. And remember, we're going back nearly 20 years here.
Yeah, I mean, the volume of money that we're talking about then was very different. There are alternative solutions for Barca, which I don't know how realistic they are, but they were talking about changing the ownership structure of the club as a potential way of getting out of this. That would be a solution to all of their problems in one fell swoop. If they, at the moment, the club is fan owned, right? So the socios have ownership of the club. If they were to become privately owned or publicly owned, being on a stock exchange and floating the entire club, they'll get a massive cash injection, because there'll be plenty of investors, institutional investors I'm talking about, that will want to buy shares in Barcelona Football Club if it was to float. I have no idea what it would float for, but if you're talking about Spurs, Daniel Levy values the club at 3 billion. What's Barcelona worth floating on the stock exchange? I have no idea.
At the moment, ironically, less.
Probably, but it's more than enough to clear a shitload of debt.
Well, it probably would be enough to certainly get club. Put it this way, it would be enough to make the debt not a problem anymore.
Exactly that. But I think there's an emotional attachment for the fans and the socios that, well, we own our club and no, we're not changing the ownership structure of it and so on. But there is solutions out there, but it involves changing the ownership structure of the club. That are fast solutions, let's say, quick solutions that within a season or two, they'll be back to where they were.
We haven't mentioned it yet, but the elephant in the room, the Super League.
Yeah, that's why they're so pro it, right? That was a 300 million cash injection in one fell swoop as well.
Yeah. Barca and Madrid, and we covered this on a podcast we did for our patrons about Madrid in terms of the way they're owned and stuff. Barca and Madrid are so restricted because of the socio environment in terms of the members owning the club, right? I mean, we even discussed it in terms of Florentino Perez's case, that even though it wasn't owned by him, basically to be the president of Real Madrid, you still had to be super fucking rich, basically. Barcelona historically really value their kind of values as a football club. But there have definitely been things that have changed. For example, they were adamant all the way up to the kind of turn of the 21st century, no shirt sponsor. They were basically the last big club. To fall and say, we're going to have a shirt sponsor.
They gave it to a charity for years, didn't they? UNICEF.
They did,
for a while.
absolutely. And yet now Qatar Airways pay for it. So, you could argue that they didn't just sell it. In the end, they went into bed with the devil, some would say, right, in terms of where the state money is coming from and stuff. But Barca fans have now accepted it. They might not like it, but it's a reality. This is too much money to get pulling into the football club just to have something printed on the shirt, not to say yes to it. And it might be that they have to go down the route of selling it and saying, look, we have to float the football club, or the football club as you want it to be is not possible. Because I think as it carries on, we've seen good example, I think, is AC Milan, right? We've got back in the Champions League this year, were probably in the mid-noughties, the most consistent team in Europe before Guardiola took over at Barcelona. They were in Champions League finals, 03, 05, 07, won 2 of them finals, had an excellent team. But actually from there till now, I've done nothing. In fact, they were out of the Champions League for a good 10 years or so. And we know that Serie A has been hit with difficult problems financially, but not to this scale. And they've disappeared, AC Milan, and are trying to work their way back. And I think this is what we're talking about realistically here is...
I mean, AC Milan, again, though, never got relegated from Serie A.
No. I mean, you wouldn't expect that. And I don't expect Barcelona to get relegated from La Liga.
Yeah. I mean, there's other clubs that have been consistently in the Champions League and then drifted away and finished mid-table. Arsenal. The reason
they'll probably be all right is because they're probably still, in terms of that kind of region, Spain, Portugal, France, what would you call it? Southern Europe?
Southern Europe.
I mean, they've still got the most famous academy production line in the world, and in Southern Europe. And I'd say arguably the world, because everybody knows La Masia, don't they? Most people do. The academy that brought through the Iniestas, Messis, Xavis, etc. So I think the quality in the academy is obviously, listen, you're never going to repeat what happened with those players that came through before, but good enough for them to go into a first team and be competitive for Barcelona. No, I'm not talking about the fact that I think they'll get relegated in the next couple of years. No, but I think we are potentially looking at a decade or more here of Barcelona being absolutely nothing.
You think as long as that? I think 5 to 7 years. I don't think it'll be as long as a decade, but again, that really does depend on what happens with the ownership structure and how they figure out a way of getting more money into the club.
Well, I think what it will depend so much on is, can they finish top 4 this year? And at the moment, I don't think they will. I don't think the quality is there.
It's not.
Real were better than them.
It's not.
Real were better than them. Atletico were better than them. Seville and Villarreal were better than them. You could
Valencia might be up there.
Valencia, Athletic Bilbao, Betis. There's some other good teams in that league. I'm sure their mates down the road, Espanyol, would like to get one over on them as well. Real Sociedad, who they actually beat in the first game, of 3rd at the moment. And they've only conceded 3 goals in the 7 games since they played Barcelona. So they've obviously sorted themselves out. I mean, that in itself, Barcelona scored 11 goals in 7 games. It's not disastrous, but we just expect them to be well in excess of 2 per game, don't we? I mean, for comparison, Real Madrid has scored 22 in 8. It's not what we expect from a Barcelona team. I don't think they finished top 4 this season. I sent a tweet out after the Benfica game saying that, did you see the tweet, Suj?
After the Benfica game?
Yeah.
Remind me.
That what would happen to them if they dropped into the Europa League.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't see that.
You'd batter them, mate.
We'd give them a good game. I don't know if we'd batter them, but...
telling you, mate, you'd beat them. Honestly, you would beat them. They would not be able to deal with your physicality, mate.
I think we would. And also, you've got to remember, if we played Barcelona, the hype and the adrenaline and everything to go with it, we're playing Barcelona, we'd go at them. And I probably think you're right. I think we would beat them.
As I pointed out in the same tweet, and a few people didn't read the end of the tweet and jumped a gun, Dynamo Kiev might finish that off first, though. Because if Barcelona don't perform well in the next 2 games against Dynamo Kiev, they won't even make the Europa League. They've just finished.
Yeah, you've got to finish 3rd in the group to get into Europa League, not 4th, mate.
If Barcelona as a name, as a brand, drop into the Europa League, they will become favourites to win it, won't they? And that is another avenue back into the Champions League. Honestly, I think some of the teams in Europa League this year are a lot stronger than normal. And I honestly, right now, if you're asking me, would West Ham beat Barcelona in a football match? I'd say yes. And I think, honestly, Tottenham would be very close to doing the same.
Yeah, I'm looking at other clubs that are in the Europa League, like Napoli, probably beat them.
Yeah, I know,
Leicester,
like definitely.
Leicester, if it clicked and they weren't doing what they're doing right
If they
now,
got Evans and
probably.
Fofana fit, maybe.
Yeah, would stand a good chance as well. Yeah, I don't think you're too far off.
I think, and do you know what is sad? Because I've spoken about this before. Like, I have far more like for Barcelona than dislike. They were a club I associated myself with quite a bit as a youngster, because Tottenham and Barcelona had traded a number of players between each other. So I only want to see them do well. They've given me the gift, and most of us, the last few years of over the last 15 years or so, have seen the best team I've ever seen by a distance. Guardiola's Barcelona team. And in my opinion, the best player as well. So I don't take any pleasure in seeing Barcelona in this situation. The flip of that is other people go, you want to fuck off in your Super League. I don't care what happens to you. But it's in their case particularly, it's really understandable why. And the same goes for Madrid, who
they need the money. Yeah,
they really do. Unfortunately, I don't know how Madrid got themselves in a position to be bidding what they were supposedly bidding for Mbappe last summer, when they know basically they can have him for free next year. I mean, and they haven't got Barcelona to compete with for the league title this year. So that's one less problem. I'd be staggered if Barcelona challenged for the title. But that kind of sums it up, isn't it? The kind of, well, we must act now. We must get Mbappe in. You know, you've got that player for free next year. Doesn't make sense.
Why bother?
He's clear. Mbappe said, I want to play for Real Madrid. He said it literally again the other day when someone said to him, what's the situation with PSG? He said, look, I've made my feelings clear. I want to go and play for Real Madrid. He said, I won't go and play for anyone else. I want to play for Real Madrid. So it's very clear he's going to go there. I mean, think about it like this, right? Atletico have taken Griezmann from Barcelona on effectively like 8 million a year for a loan. Mbappe would have Madrid would have been paying Mbappe 160 million for one season. Just think about it like that. You know, they're getting him next year anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Some of them in La Liga need to be careful what they're doing. That said, what you have got as a positive at the moment is a more competitive league with the likes of Sociedad or Seville, Villarreal, Valencia. If they can sort their act out, actually being able to make genuine title challenge. League. And I think
title challenge or Champions League challenge, because Atletico Madrid is still going to be up there top and Real.
I think title challenge.
Okay.
I think it's possible.
I don't follow La Liga enough.
Seville last year with 2 weeks to go still had an outside shot. And I think they lost on a penultimate weekend when they would have needed a lot of results to go their way. But still going into like the final 2 games, they still had an outside chance of winning the league if a lot of stuff went their way. So I think, like it's quite open, which is nice, because I think if you'd have asked most of us 2 or 3 years ago, we'd have probably said, that year where Atletico won the league, that will never happen again. It's never going to be anything but Barca or Real Madrid. Obviously, Atletico won it again last year. It went down to the wire, but they won it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Atletico won it again. But the likes of, Seville and Valencia and stuff, like if they sorted their life out, then the opportunity is now. The opportunity is there now. It's kind of the opposite to Barcelona. The opportunity is there for them now to make themselves established. Champions League, where at the moment you've got the 3 teams who are established in the Champions League, and for the other one they're kind of it changes a lot between Villarreal, Valencia, Seville, etc., or someone else.
Indeed. This story will rumble on, and listeners, we will obviously keep a close eye on what is going on with Barcelona as the season unravels, and how they do fare in both Champions League, Europa if they end up in it, and obviously La Liga as well.
Watch them go and batter Dynamo Kiev home. Shut me up. And I'm not saying they won't. They are capable of obviously beating Dynamo Kiev home and away. I think people really, from a football perspective, we obviously spoke a lot about financials in January. So the financials hasn't kind of surprised us. I think from the football perspective, people need to understand what's going on. Barcelona, from a football perspective, are in crisis as well, on and off the pitch.
Good. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. We have a bunch of content coming the rest of this week. We do know it's international break, so a mixture of FPL and non-FPL. We have Sky Fantasy Football tomorrow. On Thursday, clash of the correspondents, Brentford-Chelsea, West London derby. Both Tom and Ted will be joining James on Clash of the Correspondents. And on Friday, for those that follow Scottish football and... no, are you doing a live stream?
I'm doing a live stream. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. The Scottish and Gaffer is for the patrons, isn't it?
It's for the patrons,
That's it, yeah. And as I mentioned there, yeah, we've got Patreon content all week as well. Today we'll be looking at Hearts, a bit of a Scottish focus this week, James. 2 Scotland-focused pods. Hearts, who are now fan-owned. And maybe we'll have a bit of a look at the similarities and differences between them and Socios. Barca, Real Madrid, that kind of thing.
Yes,
tomorrow for the patrons, we are going through our regular Tottenham weekly podcast where we're looking in a bit more detail at the clubs that James and I support. And on Thursday, a quiz. Name the country.
Yeah, I'm not telling you more than that.
Indeed. So
I know they're just going to go and research how to find the answers.
Good. If you're interested in that content, patreon.com/Planet FPL. Other than that, just leaves me to say, stay safe, listeners. And thank you for tuning in. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck, Barca. Cue music, please, man child.